Michael Fleischman Happy Hour Podcast, episode 175. Welcome, Father Michael Maher, to the podcast.
He's going to show us how to pour a Guinness. If you're
yes, we're getting real-time instruction here.
You take this Guinness, if it's in a can, and just pour it right in.
Go all in.
All the way in.
Right in.
Save about a little bit left. Let it get.
Okay.
Let it settle, and then the little bit left. That's what makes the head.
Okay.
Now, when you drink a Guinness, you should get a Guinness mustache. You should, because the head should not disappear. So when you're through with the beer, the foamy part should stay at the bottom.
All right.
So you drink it through the foam.
And no mustache, you did it wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh, yep, I see.
Yeah, I got it too. Yep.
Good. All right. Good teacher, good learner. Cheers, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you for that. Ooh, very good. Well, welcome to the podcast. First time, I believe. So we have a special connection here. We'll get into that. But before we dive in, who is Father Maher? So a Jesuit priest and a hall minister at Marquette University. And it sounds like you have a long history with Marquette University.
Well, on and off for many years.
Okay.
In 1988 to 1987 and 1989, I taught there. And then I taught there worked there from 91 to 97. And then I came back in 2007.
Okay.
So I actually have a longer history. My parents met at Marquette University.
Okay.
It's sort of an interesting story. My father was Maher, and my mother's name was Mahar. And my mother
Oh my gosh.
was a biology major, and my father was an anatomy major, went on to dentistry, and they were always lab partners. And so that's
how it started.
And
wow.
My mother actually was the first female science teacher in the Milwaukee public school system.
Wow.
And she got the job back in 1950. The director of the school could say back then, "We don't hire female science teachers." And my mother looked at him and said,
"Now you do."
Well, obviously, you don't think my degree is good enough. And of course, he got his degree from Marquette, so that's how she got the job.
Wow, unreal. So tell us how...
Not only that, Father's being a little humble. He's got to actually, if you listen to the pod or watch the pod, you know I'm a pretty big fan of Mother Teresa at this point. And Father and I have a lot of synergy on some levels. So you have a connection to Mother Teresa, if you can explain that.
Well, excuse me.
Father's got more layers than an onion.
I would say, yes.
I have to tell you that the first time I met Mother Teresa was in 1991, and the Missionaries of Charity, all their convents throughout the world are in English. So they're all looking for priests to say Mass in English. And so in Rome, one of their places where they live is near San Gregorio, and I walked in to say Mass, and I looked and I saw this nun, and they all kind of looked like Mother Teresa with the blue sari and and I said, "Boy, does she look like Mother Teresa?" And the woman said, the nun said, "Because it is." And I thought, oh boy. So I said Mass. And then afterwards, Mother Teresa wanted to thank, the priest, and she held my hand, and she's patting my hand, and she said, "What do you do?" And we're talking, and she was kind of short and a little crippled. I mean, she was, and I'm a little tall, and so I looked down at her, and as I was looking down, I saw her feet, and I kind of grimaced, and she looked at me, and she goes, "Pretty bad, aren't they?" And I thought, oh, that's the way to impress them. So make fun of their feet. But she said something to me I'll never forget. So she said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm working in my doctorate in history, and it's nothing compared to what you do, in terms of." And she got very upset, and she goes, "Oh no, we need smart people in the church. You got to work with the people, and you go back to the United States." And she said, and I'll never forget, she goes, "We need people like you to work with American students and young people, because they're the poorest of the poor, because their life has no meaning." And I'll tell you something. So for various works, when I was in Calcutta, I was teaching there at their part of their formation program, and it was the funniest thing. So I'm flying back from Calcutta to Spokane. There was a snowstorm, and they said, well, we can get you, either you stay the night in New York, or we can get you to Las Vegas. We'd recommend you go to Las Vegas because it's going to be cheaper.
Sure.
So I went from Calcutta to Las Vegas. Talk about a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what the biggest difference was? People in Calcutta were so happy. They were smiling, they were walking around. They'd see this, tall white guy walking around. They'd come, can I help you? Can you do that?
Wow.
And in Las Vegas, everyone was kind of owly and I thought, get me back to Calcutta.
This is why they need you.
So friendly there. And so I help with their various connections. I got to know and I help organize their archives.
Wow.
So.
I mean, you speak layers too, four different college degrees, yes? So all this knowledge that you can learn too.
I have 4 college degrees and a postdoctorate from the Historical Institute in Rome in old handwriting, so I can teach somebody 5 years out of grade school.
And how many books have you written?
Not that many, a couple, but a lot of articles and stuff. No one ever. Don't look it up because it's boring. People say, "Do you miss your mother?" My mother passed about 8 years ago. I said, "Oh, I miss my mother so much." I said she was the only one that read everything I ever wrote.
Your biggest fan.
So
and you go to Rome quite often. You go to Rome
recently.
People go up north.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of people ask me, well, why do you go to Rome? And this kind of ties in with the whole St. Brigid Centers. There's, for me, something about the place. When you go to some place that's historic, when you go to some place that something happened, that it's worth preserving, it's worth knowing, it's something that's interesting. And you go to Rome, I have a lecture that I give, a talk, and we're in a cafe, we're sitting outside, and I said, okay, get ready. And I start with the Etruscans in 800 BC, and then we see that famous place where Mussolini would wave out the window, Yeah. And so we go to Rome, we do the Middle Ages, we do the papacy, and it's all stuff that happened within that view. I don't think there's a single city where the layers are so deep in terms of Western history and the beauty in Rome. And I have found it's very interesting when non-Catholics come to these churches in Rome, they are absolutely just spellbound by the beauty. And I think any introduction to the divine, any introduction to God, one of the surest roads is beauty. And I think that's one of the great problems in society is we are confused about what is beautiful. And people say to me, what is the purpose of an education? And I'll say, to understand what is beautiful and to acquire the skills to duplicate it. And then the more we really understand beauty, we realize it always takes us higher, 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 and eventually takes us to God. And so that beauty is something, the commitment to beauty and the preservation of beauty. And it's interesting that building, creating something beautiful is almost a moral obligation. That when we create something beautiful, we are imitating the work of God, God's creation. And so the commitment to something that already exists as beautiful, to understand why it's beautiful, and then to replicate that beauty, and that's what's going to elevate humanity. I think the saddest thing about being poor is you have no opportunity for beauty. That poverty reduces you to an animal level where there's just nothing beautiful around. And I think what's going to elevate humanity is always going to be how we help ourselves understand what is beautiful and bring beauty to other people.
An interesting thing in our industry, Father's leaving me speechless. But
I know.
I'm kind of inspired to talk about our industry and our builders that we support.
Yeah.
And I find something very amazing that, obviously Jesus was a carpenter and Joseph, but the craftsmanship of true craftsmen in our industry, again, is such a heavenly route. But you have to slow down to do that, and you have to be intentional with your work, and you have to be, as Mother Teresa would say, very intentional about the small things, what's behind the cabinet. Right? I always like to focus on the back of the cabinet. No one will ever see it. It's completely hidden. But there's a beautiful thing about the craftsmanship and intentionality of what's behind the drywall, what the studs and wall look like. And when you talk to someone on a job site, and they're inspired, I would say, by God and the Holy Spirit, you can tell when they're not. Very obvious how much pride they have. And you got to be careful with pride, obviously, but if you're doing your work intentionally for God and through God, it just screams at you. It's hard you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
When you look at...
So when you say why it doesn't matter, right? Why does it matter? Just it's the back of the cabinet. All those things, and even at work, right? Even for people, the non-doers like me and you, right? The process and procedure of things, and just the fine intentional details of an email.
Yeah, well, that was even the book about the Carpenter too, right?
I'm just almost quoting verbatim. John Gordon talking about the Carpenter. I was almost quoting verbatim.
In medieval art, buildings now are just so well lit. Well, you got to remember that electricity, 1890 or something, buildings were. And you look at these incredible medieval churches, and you see this incredible detailed work, and the artist would say, well, why did you bother? And they say, oh, we're making it for the angels.
Interesting.
This idea, the commitment to total beauty was something that was. And again, it's interesting. I work with this Presbyterian college. And those kids are so good. I mean, they're not anti-Catholic. They're just so good. It's Whitworth College in Spokane University now, but they've never been into a Catholic church, and they're just spellbound by the beauty. And I got to tell you this quick story. So, they're the Catholic tradition with statues and relics. So, I take them into this church, and it's got the relic of the foot of Mary Magdalene. And they're good kids, and they're saying, well, okay, why? And it's this gold case of the remnant of Mary Magdalene's foot is in this gold, and people are praying the foot. And I said, in the Gospel of John, what's the first foot in the tomb of the resurrection? What's the tomb of Mary Magdalene? And she says, so the angel says to her, Jesus is risen. And so she gets this by faith. She receives by faith. And then the angel says to her, go out and preach to the apostles. So that foot signifies the reception of faith and the need for evangelization. Well, these kids get all excited. They say, well, this is important. I said, I know, that's why we have it.
Yeah.
So they all want the picture taken around the golden foot. So I take a picture and I send it to the provost of the university I know, and I said, I want you to know that I have all your congregational kids venerating a golden foot, but I just want you to know I would never let them venerate a golden calf.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, but that's but the beauty of Rome is something, and of course the history. A week ago, 3-4 days ago, was the Feast of Peter and Paul. So I was able to get down to see the actual small tomb where the bones of St. Peter's, we know were there from archaeology and all that. And then you see how everything was just built up, but the whole enormity of St. Peter's is about this little stone shrine that was put in when he died. And all the saints and the history, and that you go into like Ostia Antica, and you're walking along the cobblestones there, the flagstones from the Roman Empire, and you say, Paul the Apostle, we know, walked on this street. So I mean, it's an
Have
amazing...
you been there, Joel?
No,
okay.
Father Maher has been nudging me.
Yeah.
pretty hard to go with him at some point in the near future. I've never been to Europe, so
I've never been to Europe either.
As I say, I don't leave the county.
You have said that. Yes.
You'd like it. You'd like Italy. It's very Italian.
Yeah.
Well done.
The beauty. I mean, I've heard.
It's just don't go to Rome in June, July, or August. It gets Mediterranean heat is a whole other animal.
Noted.
So I like it around here too. In the summer, so that sounds
for
good.
sure. Yeah,
that sounds wonderful.
So I know you have a unique story of how you two got connected. For those listening or watching, how did this come about? This partnership?
I'll kind of give my version, and then Father can give his perspective. Yeah. As we've talked about here, we have a affiliate organization called the Sunshine Foundation, 501(c), which is an outreaching branch of Drexel. Drexel aligns with it, I'll put it that way. And I don't remember how it really started. I guess it was a Holy Spirit thing. And we didn't really have any money or any assets in it. We kind of started it anyway. It's got a great name and a great story. And Mandy obviously has been here for now about 1.5 years to help with it. And my very, I guess, medium to long story, which maybe I've told before, is I was at a wedding in Dallas, and I don't go to inner cities very often. And there was a lot of homeless population there. We were there for a weekend, and the fact how people just ignore homeless people and don't even look them in the eye or say a word to them, and if anything, you kind of scoff at them, I suppose. And very quickly you become accustomed to them. Very short time when you're in an inner city. I think we all do. And I couldn't wait to get on the airplane. And I told my wife, I said, I have to help. I can't do this and just ignore the fact and live in, a suburb of Milwaukee, if you will, and just close my eyes like it doesn't exist. So I came back and I said, I'm going to start feeding the homeless. And as usual, Pam, my wife, who puts up with me and tolerates me, said, good luck with that. And I think she was hoping it was one of my ideas that would go away. So I have a few priest friends, Father Strand and Father Mark, and reached out to both of them and said, hey, I don't want to be this rural white guy that just shows up in a parking lot and is like, hey, who wants food? Give me some direction. So I looked at a few different organizations, and I think a lot of them, I talk fast and mumble. I don't think they really got what I was talking about, so I never heard back from them. And then Father Strand said, there's a guy named Griffin doing something down there. You might want to talk to him. So I went down and talked to this guy named Griffin, and he's like, well, I evangelize. I honestly really didn't know what that meant. He's like, I'm about to do it right now. First we did daily Vespers, which I didn't even know what that was. Again, I'm a Catholic, but not a very good one apparently. That just simply means a lot of people have taken a vow, I think, right, to pray
Vespers are usually what people do in religious life.
Okay, correct. So
we pray and you raise your family. It all works out.
Yeah. So it's 5 times a day, and we're about to do this thing, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I met the guys for about 30 seconds, and middle of the day, again, I'm raising my family, running a business, and they're like, well, first we're going to pray. Do you want to pray? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And it's, it's 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, no big deal. But I'm like, that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. And we're in downtown Milwaukee, and that's out of my comfort zone. I mean, I'm white-knuckled on the way down. I don't think you can drive you down there. Try to speed the story up a little bit. So then it's like, well, now I go evangelize. And this is just in the middle of the day. I think it's in fall. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And he starts walking up to people. He's like, how you doing? Do you believe in God? And he just starts doing his thing. I'm like, wow. People were very receptive. And so I don't know how I can help you. I said, I want to feed the homeless. He's like, well, and Griffin's a little introverted, even though he's obviously doing his thing. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty outgoing, so maybe I could bring food and you could do your thing. I mean, food's always a great. Jesus made food for a lot of people, right? When he came back, he sent us John 3:21, right? He said this. People were his friends, his apostles were just fishing, and he came back and he's like, he could have done anything. Instead, he made him breakfast. That always stayed with me. So speed things up. Griffin's showing me properties, and we're trying to figure this out. And also, he calls me one day, and he's like, well, even to go backwards, he calls me one day, and he's like, hey, I think I might need to live somewhere. People don't seem to want to join my mission, I'm like, really? Because he's just kind of like living on the streets almost in church pews to some degree. And I'm like, he's like, do you know anybody that gets into real estate? I'm like, that might, never guess what the Holy Spirit, we're too dumb to know what the Holy Spirit's doing, but I'm like, maybe that's a reason I need to help you, Griffin. Like, I know real estate really well. So we start looking at these properties in Milwaukee, and at one point he's like, I think this is it. I said, where are we standing right now? He goes, oh, this place? This is probably the worst block in all of Milwaukee. It's got the most crime and the most drugs. And he's just really excited. Like, okay, this is the one you want. And we pursued 3 or 4 other like that. And then finally we found, for some reason, he prayed on it, and there was these 2 properties on Marquette, near Marquette, and a great guy, Mark, owned them and was ready to give them up, and we bought them and remodeled them. And then I don't know exactly how the Holy Spirit connected us, but also there was this figure called Father Maher, who I had never met. I wanted to meet, I think, at the restaurant, and said, hey, I heard about you guys, I believe. And I'll let Father take it from there.
Yeah.
Well, I've known Griffin for some time, and he was an undergrad at Marquette, and he's got this group of men that he wants to sort of form into a more solidified group, so I've been helping with that. And so basically there were these 2 properties. He only needed 1. I also run the Knights of Columbus, which has gotten to be very big at Marquette. I have about 80 young men who are in it, very fine young men. And so it's always helpful when you have your own house, because I mean, one of the things that, you're not under catering restrictions, and it's one of the things to kind of help form people in a living situation of, in talking about this house, I just simply say, this is not a frat house. So we're going to live, if we say we're Christians, Christian gentlemen, how do we start behaving that way in terms of living in a lifestyle that could actually be an example to other houses on campus? And so Joel graciously said, sure, you can have your house.
Yeah, Mark really said, hey, I have 2 houses for sale. I don't really want to separate them. And they're large houses. They house 12 bedrooms. 12 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, really big houses.
Yeah.
And then we decided to remodel them and really brought them back to life. Mark they were nice, but we brought them back to the real 2025 styles.
People are
beautiful.
Just, so we have now, so it's the street missionary's house, and then the house is called the Michael McGivney house. Michael McGivney was the founder of the Knights of Columbus. In 1881, which is interesting, it's the same year that Marquette had its first class. So we have actually a little historic room in the house called the 1881 room.
And we'll have our first gentleman living there this fall.
Yeah, we'll have a couple actually. And that will be a community that's going to build, and we're going to have a small chapel in it, and so.
And the disciple house is full with people doing the street disciple thing.
And they're also going to be living at the Knight's house, going to help keep the neighborhood clean, and so then we can segue to the St. Brigid Center.
Yes, which is that's a good segue.
And remember, and it doesn't matter, but at all, but it's part of the story. I'm not from Marquette, and I don't like Milwaukee, right? So with that, we'll probably weave that in at some point. I can say I don't like Milwaukee. I'm not. If I have 7 places, if I have a compass and I have 7 places I can go on an off day, I don't. My heart doesn't go.
Gravitate.
I should go down to Milwaukee and walk around. It does not. Right?
So I'm sort of the other hand. I grew up in Milwaukee, and this building in 1997 was bought by the Irish community, and my brother was the first director of it.
Oh, wow.
And it was a vibrant center for the arts, and the building on 21st and Wisconsin Avenue, it's a very large building. It's in the style of what's called Romanesque Revival, very heavy masonry. When you think of Romanesque Revival buildings, think of the Pabst Mansion that's across the street. Think of the Federal Building. Think of the Pfister Hotel. That very large, even the City Hall, that's all Romanesque Revival. It was a style of architecture that was done in the 1880s. So, and the architect is by a man named E. Townsend Mix. He did the Veterans Home in Woods, which has an interesting little trivia point. That being a federal property had to be signed into existence by the President of the United States. President Lincoln signed the paper, put the pen down, and got dressed to go to the theater. It was the last act he ever signed, was Woods.
Wow.
So that Woods is designed by E. Townsend Mix, the Mitchell Mansion, the Mitchell Building, Mayo Clinic, and so it's an important architectural building. Well, COVID and all, and the building fell into financial distress, and it went up for sale, and it broke my heart for several reasons. One, my family was very active in it. My parents were the founder of the Irish Genealogical Society, which met at the building, and the last thing we needed was another blighted building on Wisconsin Avenue. And to go back to what I was saying, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
It has great historical importance. Martin Luther King spoke there in '65. Helen Keller spoke there.
Lots of history.
It was one of the largest auditoriums in Milwaukee in the 19th century. So it was a very historic building. It's a very beautiful building on the outside. And the other thing that I'm doing now, so I'm semi-retired from teaching, is I work with young adults. And I found that young adults really need a venue because the world of the cell phone is fake. There's no there. To have a venue where where young adults can gather and actually talk to each other. And this building, actually, years ago, I used to teach Irish dancing there.
Oh, wow.
There's videos of me dancing, and I look at myself now. I can barely get out of bed. I know, how did I do that? But, I want to bring it back. And one of the things is we're going to have a pub in the basement. And the word pub is interesting. You know where it comes from?
Ireland?
Pub. Pardon?
Ireland?
Oh no, the word pub.
Oh.
Comes from the word public house.
Oh.
A public house.
Okay.
And a public house was something where the public gathered for a discussion. I mean, these were where people came together and talked. They didn't watch TV, they didn't play cell phone games, they talked, and they played cards. And so very much I'm interested in having a location that is intergenerational. One thing that I love about Italy is you go to the dinner table in Italy and the grandkids and the grandparents are all there and they sit for 4 hours for lunch. But it's worth it because the food's real good. But they sit there and they talk. And I'll take kids and I'll say, now, you see those people there standing there? They're just talking. And to bring those skills back, places where, so we're not going to have any loud music, we're not going to have neon signs, we're not going to have power drinks or anything like that. It's just going to be a place where people can talk, and like they do in a pub in Ireland.
And the Marquette students came up with the name, so it's going to be called The Well.
Okay.
Now, hopefully opening this fall.
Okay.
The Well comes from and Joel settled on the name of St. Brigid of Kildare, and in Ireland, St. Brigid's, they're called St. Brigid's Wells. Okay. And so the full name of the bar would be St. Brigid's Well, but just the Well, is the name that calls. And St. Brigid, of course, it's interesting. In 2003, they made now St. Brigid is a national holiday in Ireland. Along with St. Patrick's Day on February 1st. Okay. And it is. Spring traditionally starts in Ireland on February 1st. For us, it's another snowstorm. I mean, it's hard but it's called Imbolc, and that's where that's sort of the things start turning green then in February, and so it's a sign of new life. But it's also St. Brigid set up a monastery in which she was known for her health care, her education, her hospitality, food for the poor, but sharing what was beautiful about her culture and her faith. And I think one of the things that the Irish they have beautiful music, beautiful dance, beautiful poetry, beautiful theater. I'll give the food to the Italians.
Sure. That's fair.
but everything else, it's a culture that stresses the word and the song. You see, poor people can't afford to read. They can't afford books, they can't afford an education. So the oral tradition in the Irish tradition is very strong. Songs, stories, dance, things that are physical, that are oral. Orality is a very strong part of the Irish culture. And to bring that, and why can't poor, so we want to have things that are going to be for the poor people in the neighborhood.
Wow.
Which goes along with doing lunch in the park.
Yeah.
With Griffin. And we're at 18 months of doing that straight.
Wow.
It was the first time, which was a bit humbling, interesting, it just caught me off guard. A group of people walked up to me during when I'm making hamburgers for them. So it's kind of a great way to interact because the hamburgers, I can only make about 30 I can make about a little over 30 at a time. So I can do a big group, and then they gotta wait, and then we get to evangelize and get to know them. And a group came up to me and they go, "Homeless Joe!" And I looked around, and then they said it again. They said, "Are you talking to me?" They're like, "Homeless Joe from Drexel, yeah, that's you." So it was an interesting point where I'm maybe starting to be part of their community in some ways. Very transient bunch. You don't see everyone the same month. Obviously, they come and go pretty quick, but that was kind of an interest. So we're sort of, I think, put roots as our 18th month doing that. So that's kind of a little bit of the St. Bridget story is also lunch in the park that we help out there. So that's been a great thing. Yeah, well, and I again, like as a Drexel team member too, with our core value of connection, like just seeing that and what you're doing and bringing that, to... Oh boy, if you mention values, that's a whole other podcast. Indeed. Because I'll tell you something, every decision is based on a value. And when I do historical research, that every decision is based on your value. And if you want to understand an organization's values, don't look at what they say, look at the structures they create to support those values. If you really value something, it'll have a high structure. But I think we're all called to be honest, and what that means is if we have a value, we have a structure to point it out. You have low structure, that means it's low value. And so to really, Drexel now has kind of put their nickel down by saying, we value the human community, we value, and here's this nonprofit that's going to help make things beautiful for the community. Point it right back to God, like you were saying. Yeah, and I've actually heard that recently. I have a journal prompt that, actually talked about, does your calendar reflect what you value? And I think that's, structure, right? Like, how you spend your time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so good. What else, guys? I think we covered most of what we wanted to, right? Yeah, are you curious about anything else? I'm curious about Rome because I've never been there before. Like, tell me your favorite spots. I know, right? I think we can probably wrap it up after I probably just dive into this a bit. Please. Billboard. Because we're probably at about that time. But, the one thing, so Father is, we always meet at Michael's Restaurant, which is a restaurant downtown, and he served there, if you will, for many, many decades. They know him very, very, very well. And I asked him a question. He kind of answered it, but I don't think he ever did. He doesn't need to answer it now. It's just an interesting thing that I think of often. Because you might be, if you're watching the podcast or listening to it, and if you know me, and I kind of hinted at it, like, I don't know why I'm involved. And again, I'm not looking for bravado or anything like that. I'm just literally curious. And I asked Father, I said, Father, why me? And I said, I don't want to do this. But I try not to say no to the Holy Spirit. I do feel called to it. And after he tells him, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. After he explains it a bit more, but I'm still like, I'm not Irish. I'm not from Marquette. Like, I've never been to Rome. Like, I don't have connection to any of these things, Like, I'm a German guy from little Kewaskum, Wisconsin. I'm like, I don't know. I like to hunt and fish. There's nothing to do with, like,
Well, but I mean, but you do have a desire to promote beauty.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
and Father, how you answered it in a roundabout way, I believe, and it's interesting dealing with Griffin and Father Maher and people that are very, very high spirituality, something that I would love to be and am inspired to be. They're not surprised when they pray for things and they happen. Things will come up with both of them, and they'll be like, we're going to do this someday. I'm like, you're crazy. They're like, well, pray on it.
Yeah.
And when things happen, maybe not like myself or other people maybe don't have strong enough faith, they're not surprised when it actually happens. They go, oh, well, there you are. You know, kind of when I showed up, they both were like, well, there you are.
Answered.
And, yeah, they're like, so I think I was a little bit of an answer to their prayer, which is very, very humbling. It actually makes me palm sweaty saying that.
Yeah.
But when they pray for things and things happen, because they believe prayer works, they are very, very inspirational because they truly believe prayer works. So when something happens they prayed for, they're very blessed and thankful, but they're not surprised like I would be. They're like, oh, well, that worked out.
Yeah.
And it's very, very inspirational, Father, just so you know.
it's one of the fundamental decisions a modern man or a woman has to make in their life decision is there a force in the world, and we'll call it God for lack of a better term, that is directing the world, or is the world simply run by the material laws of nature, survival of the fittest? It just kind of unfolds. So it's either one or the other. You gotta say,
Can't be like half of it.
yeah. Either there is, and there are things that happen in this world we don't understand, but we say at the end of the day, do we hold that something is both pushing and pulling the world? And the pushing and the pulling we may not understand until the end of time, or it's just completely spontaneous. And you're gonna, if you hold either one or the other, you're going to start putting structures into those respective values. And what unites all men and women of faith is this fundamental idea that I believe that there is something that is pushing the world forward, and that those pushes may be things like tragedies, accidents that I may not understand, but at the end of the day, there is an order to the world.
Which, and to build on that also probably begs the question of, if there is that person, that means there also probably is evil. But it's not just all good. So do you believe in good versus evil? And if you do, that's a whole nother thing. And then probably where I just want to finish is back to prayer. You hear so often, and it's way overused, I'll pray for you, I'm praying on it. You know, I love saying Padre Pio, pray, hope, and don't worry, right? But people say, well, I'm going to pray. I'll say, pray. I'm going to pray for you right now. But if you still worry, and we've talked about that on the podcast before, if you still worry, that means you do not believe prayer works. So if you believe prayer works to God's will, then that's it. Like, people will say, I don't know what to do for Father Maher. He's really sick, but I can't go see him at the hospital, or whatever that is, right? And I will say confidently, just we need to know the people that I get to know, that I've been blessed to get to know. I'll say, just pray for them. And they'll say, well, yeah, but you know. I'll say, no. You believe prayer works, I believe prayer works. So if you believe it works, then just pray for them. And then pray more. And that's just as important as making them a lasagna. Probably more. Yep. Although there's beauty in lasagna.
Sure. I mean,
okay,
Italian.
So anyways,
It ties you into that spiritual reality. Because either you're going to believe that there is a spirituality, there is the human soul, there is a dignity to the human person, or there isn't. So either you're going to tie into that spiritual reality or you're not. And that's the fundamental choice we all have to make.
Moment by moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So Billboard.
She was like, I got nothing. I see you. I have not seen you speechless. I have not heard you speechless on any podcast we've ever done.
I am just absorbing it all.
I can tell.
It
I've
is
never
very
seen you
inspiring.
as a sponge. You are just a sponge right now.
It's a real treat to be here, and of course, my great thanks for Drexel and Joel and you, and for everyone here who reading all the Drexel material about teamwork and dedication, and you feel it when you walk into the office, that this is something that it's a common goal, but it's done with a morality behind it. And I think that the company here serves as a real model for other companies.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Father.
you.
I appreciate that.
Well, we'll give you the last word. If you had a billboard, likely on Marquette campus.
Or in Rome.
Or in Rome, wherever.
What would I say?
What would you say?
I think people ask for that pithy little comment, I write 40-page articles. I'm not good at brevity.
Yes, this is extremely hard for Father.
Yes.
Father does not tell short stories.
It is, to really find what is beautiful in life, and then if you don't have a sense of humor, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So, Father, this is a billboard. What does it say and why?
What does it say?
It's a billboard. You got to be succinct.
You got to be succinct. And I said, search for the beautiful. Search for the beautiful, and make the beautiful happen. Because in that search for the beautiful, there's a communal, what's going to be beautiful for everyone. So what's commonly beautiful? And so the search for beauty, I always tell people, don't. Maybe people aren't ready to talk about God, but they want something beautiful in their lives. And why is something beautiful? So I'd say just the search. The desire for the beautiful and the desire to gain the skills to create that beauty. And that can be intellectual, it can be building, it can be plumbing. It's not like it's just, writing books.
It's a great place to start and a soft place to land. I can do that. Thank you so much for the gift of your time.
And thank you for the Guinness.
Yes. Yeah. Cheers to that. Now you all know how to pour it.
Come see us at the well soon.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right, peace and love.
Peace and love.